About arrays. I'm going to create a new array. Right? So do you know how can we add a new element to the array? Push. How do we use it? Characters.push and then the value, right? Right? Okay, so let's see if that works. Exactly. It works. Right?
Yeah, it puts it after.
It puts it after, yeah. How do we put it at the beginning? Shift, shift, shift or unshift? Shift. I don't think so. No, shift is doing something funny.
Oh, it comes off the end.
Exactly, it's unshift. Right? So if we do unshift, Boris, exactly. So it's at the beginning, right? So this is basic value adding arrays. But let's make it more complicated as usual. What happens if we got that, oops, but we want to change any element, we want to update it. So what happens if we want to update Donald and we want to display something else? How do we edit values on the array?
You have to
Index,
yeah, index.
0, whatever. Whatever.
Just give a new value to it.
Yep, easy, right? Updating values. Cool. But so we know how to add values at the beginning, we know how to add values at the end, but what happens if we want to add a value on a specific position on the array?
You have to define a position to be replaced.
Or let me rephrase the question. What happens if I want to delete one element of the array? I want to delete index number 1. Pop?
Not really.
Delete?
Delete could work.
Delete what? Yeah, I've never seen that, to be honest, but if that works, I need to review my, yeah, it did something funny,
Yeah,
but it didn't solve the problem, right? Because I was expecting characters of length.
it doesn't change the length of the array.
Exactly, still free, right? That's not what I want. I don't want to have an empty value. I want just to have 2 elements on my array. Right. Splice. Yeah, I like that. I like a splice. So if we go to
Aragon.
yeah, so if we go to splice, so it receives basically at least 2 parameters. First of all, which element do we want to delete? Which index?
Yes.
1. And then the second argument is how many elements we want to delete. So we could delete multiple elements in a row. How many elements do we want to delete? 1, exactly. So if we do that, that's interesting because when we do slice, I'll do something.
We don't need index.
So if we don't need index 1, that's correct, Sultan. So if we do that, this is going to return the element that got removed from the array. So by doing that, I will expect it to display Kim. Exactly. It's still an array because, as I said, we could delete multiple elements. As you can see, I can say start from index number 1 and delete 2 elements. It will remove Kim and Boris, right? But again, splice is returning the deleted elements. But in reality, splice is modifying the array. So it returns the deleted elements, but it keeps the elements that hasn't been removed. In other words, if I do that, what will this display? Donald and Boris, exactly. You are completely right. And if I do that, if I change that, what will characters be now? Exactly. Yes. And what if I do that? What characters will be?
Boris.
Just Boris.
Yeah.
Why?
Because it you start index 2.
Correct.
Remove nothing.
Remove nothing, so then
So then it stays Boris.
it stays Boris. No, we got an array with 3 elements, and then we say, go to the last position and remove nothing. So what do we get?
It is full array.
Exactly. No, we got the same thing, right? Because we haven't deleted anything. Yep, so is there any question? Right? So then let's go one step beyond. So we know how to add elements at the beginning, how to add elements at the end, how to edit elements, how to remove elements from the middle. But what about replacing, right? What if instead of king we want to display something else? Yes, exactly. So for that particular case, right, you know that we've tried that before, right? So we could do characters1 equals new value, right? So if we do that, right, so we got the value updated. There is another way to do that that sometimes may be useful. I'm going to ask you in a different way. So what happens if we, instead of deleting an element, we know how to do it, we want to add an element in the middle, not at the beginning, we know, on shift, not at the end, we know, push, but between Kim and Boris. We want to add Teresa between Kim and Boris. How do we do that?
Specify the index in splice.
Yep.
And then add the value as an argument, enter the value as an argument.
Where, here?
Yeah, the third.
Like that? Okay, so what will this return?
A new array.
At the very end. Yep. Yep.
Oh, yeah, okay. Rather than change the index.
Yeah, I agree with Justin. So when we splice, so essentially we're telling, hey, this new element will be in position number 1. But position number 1 is here. So I believe it will move Kim and Boris to the right-hand side. So what do you think this will display? I'm going to give you a few options. Donald, Kim, Teresa, and Boris. Or Donald, Kim, Donald, Teresa, Kim, and Boris.
Might even
Option 1 or option 2.
Don't
Or something else.
maybe replace Kim with Teresa.
Replace Kim with Teresa. That's another option. Let's do that. Let's do that. Wait a minute, Christian. Wait a minute. So we got Donald, Teresa, and Boris. Any other suggestion? Donald, Kim, and Boris. Donald, Kim, and Boris.
If you want to insert them, why are you doing that one? Just go character and then the index of where you want to put it equals her name.
Yeah.
Your splice, when you look at splice is like taken away. You don't want to do that. You
Well,
want to insert.
I want to insert, exactly.
Yes, I wouldn't even use splice.
Okay, okay, right. So that's the most aggressive approach that Chris is proposing. Don't even use a splice. So how do you add an element between Kim and Boris?
I'll just go. So I'm gonna want her to be. I want her to be 2.
Two.
I'll just go character index
2.
2
Yeah.
equals Teresa.
Okay. Yeah, I don't want to replace Boris. Well, I want, but not talking about technology, right? So the thing is, I want to add Teresa here. We need a splice.
Yeah.
We need a splice. And if you don't use a splice, you'll have to write probably 4 or 5 lines of code. So use a splice, right? But still, look, that's the example. And then you know what we want to do. We want to add Teresa between Kim and Boris. But I don't know if this will solve the problem. So what do you think? 1, 2, 3, or 4? 1, 4.
It pushes after
2.
1, so that Kim and then it comes
4,
after
5. Right.
before.
I thing, well, I'm going to play it and I'll tell you what's happening. Look at that. So that makes sense, right? Because we are telling, hey, Teresa will be at index number 1, right? So whatever was in number 1, Kim, please move it to the right, which makes sense, right? So if we definitely want to put Teresa between Kim and Boris, what do you need to do?
Change the index.
To what?
Uh,
2. Exactly.
But why do we have 0 then? You can delete 0.
because you don't delete anything.
Okay, wait a minute. What happened if I change it to 1? What will this return?
It will replace Boris with Teresa.
It will replace Boris with Teresa. I think Sultan is right. Exactly, right? Because we said, hey guy, go to position number 2, 0, 1, 2, delete it, because we want to delete one element, so Boris will be gone, and then add Teresa on that position. So it will essentially replace.
If you have 1, delete, and if you have 0, don't.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly,
you can
exactly.
delete multiple items as well. If you
Yeah.
have a longer array, you can delete 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, and what happens if I do that? What will this return? I added a 4th argument. Donald, Kim, Teresa, Emmanuel.
Then 0. And then Boris as well.
Boris, where is Boris? Here, at the end. Okay, at the end. Right, so Donald, Kim, Teresa, Emmanuel, Boris. I think you are all right. Exactly, exactly. So essentially here we said, hey, take index number 2, 0, 1, 2. Don't delete anything, so Boris will be respected. But please, all these values, just put them in between, right? That's why splice is very powerful. Any question? Someone yesterday talked about the You Don't Know JavaScript book, right? So that guy is pretty crazy. I think he smoked something because at some point it's good, right? That he starts adding things like, hey, adding negative values here, right? And that's valid. I'm not going to tell you how to do it because it's going to confuse you a lot. But essentially with modern JavaScript, if you have a negative value, it takes -2, but starting from the end, so you can go back, right? So instead of 0, 1, 2, it will be 0, 1, 2. You can reverse things. You know, ignore that. Just to let you know that splice is very powerful.
If you just put one parameter,
1.
would say like one,
1?
would that delete everything after the index 1? Or would it
That's a good question. I don't know the default behavior. I would say that I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. So in reality, okay, right. So this is a shorthand, if I'm correct, of that. Exactly. But this is a weird scenario. Don't do that. Try to avoid implicit values because the behavior is kind of masked. So if you just pass a value, it will remove everything starting from that index, right? So if we pass 1, it will remove 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. So in reality, this is the shorthand of, hey, take that index and then how many elements do I need to remove? Something like that, all, right? But not all starting from index number 1.
Yeah.
Right? Any question? Right, so I'm going to show you another way to play with arrays. And the reason is you may get confused easily because it's very similar. You may get that question on your next job interview, so it's also good to remember. Yeah, so on top of splice, you can, let me change that. You can use something called slice. It's very similar, actually. A slice is very similar, but the main difference is important is splice modifies the original array. However, slice doesn't change the array at all. Just returns a slice of that array without changing it. In other words, if I do slice 0, 1, what will this return? Donald. Exactly. Exactly. You're right. Why? Because a slice, it's like when you get a slice of a piece of a cake, right? You say, hey, look at the first element, look at the first position, index 0, and take one and return the first element. So if we do 2, this will return Donald and Kim. Exactly. And if we do that, what will this return? Kim. So Chris said it will return Kim. Any other opinion? Donald and Kim. Kim and Boris. Right. So Norbert is right. So if we do that, wait a minute. So
Starting
Chris,
from the end of 1, and it's going to hit the end of that 1, which is 2, which is Kim. Ooh, yeah.
oh
If
yeah,
we wanted to take Kim and Boris, it would be 3.
yeah, that's true. That's true. So okay, that's important to note. Yeah, that's a good point, Chris. You're right.
Let me teach you about.
Yeah. So, but that's interesting actually. It doesn't work how I thought. So with a splice, look, it's quite confusing. With a splice, we pass 2 arguments. We can pass more, but well, let's keep it simple, right? So with the splice, we send the index, and then how many? However, with the slice, the API is slightly different. We send the index, and then it's not how many elements, it's the last index. You see
It's
that?
like taking 2, you've got to cut to get a piece of cake, you've got to tap 2 sides of it and then bring it out. It's like the same method.
Yep. Okay, so let's repeat that example because it's quite confusing. So if I do characters, then dot slice, and then 1 or 2, so it will essentially return anything between these 2 elements. So it will be the first element, Kim, but then between the first and the second. So between the first and the second is just 1, right? Kim. So to return both Kim and Boris, we'll probably need to do that. To say, hey, start from the first one, first index, Kim, and then go until index number 3. So it would be 0, 1, 2, 3. So it will return Kim and Boris. Exactly. Yeah, that's confusing, but it's what it is, right? So something.
It's good.
Yeah, it's what it is, right? I mean, in real life, it's weird to use a slice. Sometimes you may need to use a splice. Yeah, that's what it is, right? A splice, I agree.
You cannot take just a chunk out of the information with splice. You need to use slice.
Well,
If you want to
yeah.
take multiple, names out of a longer array, then
Yeah. So
slice. What for
yeah. So the thing is, if you want to change the array, which one do you use? Slice or splice? A splice, exactly. If you don't want to change the array, you just want to get a subset, you can use a slice or filter. Both will make the job, right? So that's why, I mean, filter is very popular, but it's quite new. Slice is very old. I mean, the thing is, I didn't even remember the API, that's why I made it wrong. But yeah, at least it's good to let you know, because you may get that question. What's the difference between slice and splice? This is about arrays. As I still have 10.5 minutes, I would like to talk about objects. So I'm going to do pretty much the same. Yeah. 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 Element? No. Another array? So Tom and Jerry?
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to take Tom and Jerry and move it in the first character. Can I do that? There is a method.
You can concact.
So you want to put that
Yeah. On
here.
the characters.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you the most elegant solution possible to the problem, something that we haven't investigated yet, but we'll talk about that. You can use spread operators. So I'll show you what that means. I'm not going to explain that now, but I'd like to let you know because next month we're going to learn that. So you can actually create a new array, and you can do something like ... characters, comma, ... new characters. So, okay, let me do console log. Yeah, so if you do that, look at that. So here we're saying, hey, please create a new array. You see the square brackets.
Yeah.
And then there are two elements. That's the first element, and that's the second element, because you see the comma, right?
It's always the 3 dots then.
Exactly. So, but with the 3 dots, it's kind of magic, right? This is very powerful. We'll learn that. But with the 3 dots, right, then you can say the first element of the array, actually, because of the 3 dots, will be Donald, Kim, and Boris. And the second element of the array will be Tom and Jerry.
What was that called? To do that?
So this dot notation, this is what we call spread operator. Yeah, I write it down.
You
Spread
refer to this.
operator. Actually, spread
2 days
operator.
ago, you mentioned it.
Sorry?
You mentioned it 2 days ago. Spread operator.
No?
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'll let you know something. So there are 3 ways to call that, and I'm sure you heard some of them. I'll tell you the differences. So you may have heard about that like spread operator. You may have also heard about that like gather operator. But in reality, the technical way that combines both is REST operator. So REST operator is the combination of the spread operator and the gather operator. It's always about the 3 dots, but depending on how we use it, we'll call them spread operator and gather operator. We'll learn that on August. The reason why I'm telling you that is because if you go to an interview and just start talking about these things, they will be very surprised. They are not expecting you to know that, right? So I'm giving you that hint that please, let's start getting familiar with this technical concept, right? Right, but the thing is, so what Christian was asking, it was something slightly different. He didn't want to create a new array. So he wanted to, concatenate values, add Tom and Jerry to the list of characters, right?
Yeah, or replace Tom and Donald and Kim with Tom and Jerry.
Replace Donald and Kim with Tom and Jerry. Okay, we can do that. You know what you could do? We could say, so new characters dot for each, and then so we got new character, and then we got the index, right? So then, right. So and then you're going to iterate on that array. So whenever there's a value here, I want to replace it there, right? So then we could do place characters of the position index will be equal to new character. Should be something like that. Let me see if that works. I mean, there are multiple ways to do that, but I think this is readable enough. So then if I do characters, I will expect that to be Tom, Jerry. That should respect Boris because we are just editing the index number 0 and the index number 1. So if I'm correct, that should display Tom, Jerry, and Boris. Exactly, right? That's right. We could do that using Splice, but the thing is, Splice will be harder to read, right? So what we could do with Splice could be characters.splice, and then the position we want to change, that will be index, and then we want to remove one element, and then we want to set new character, right? So that should be pretty much the same thing. Exactly, that's the same thing, right? Now the question is, what do you think is more readable? Line number 7 or line number 6? Exactly, right? So the thing is, if the only thing you want to do is update one position of the array, is what you suggested, to me, just doing square bracket notation is simpler.
The way you just did that with the index, is that because it went to the front, took the front two off, and then starts, and that was why? What about if you wanted it at the end?
If you want to do it at the end, what do you want to do? Do you want to concat?
No, so say, because the one says Tom and Jerry have replaced Dom and Kim, right?
Yes.
And left Forest because it's done its action and then it's finished.
Yes.
So if you wanted to keep Donald at the front, and
Yep.
it was just removed from the Kim and Forest.
So you want to start from the end.
No, he wants to start after Donald.
But what's the rule? After the first element?
Again, yeah.
So you want to start, well, I mean, if you want to do that,
I'll just
that's it, right? If you want to start on the first element, right? I mean, keep it simple.
There's another thing about slice. Sometimes you need to copy an array. Like if you don't want to mutate array, you just want to copy it. You can just use slice 0 and it will
Slice. Oh yeah.
you might as well just start using that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Konstantin is right, but I don't want to explain that. Any other question about that? Do you want to change that example a bit? Do you want to do some magic?
Oh, that's magic.
Right. What happens if we have that? Right. Tell me more characters, please.
Jameson.
Arnold. Yeah, Arnold is a good name.
And one more.
Chris.
Chris.
He's also
Right.
a senator. Or
So what happens if the algorithm should replace values starting from the end, right? So in that particular case, we want Tom to replace Chris and Jerry to replace Arnold.
start from the length, end of the array, length minus 1 for length. Just reverse.
Yes. Okay, so
Like, you use the reverse.
but the thing is, if you right, so if you use reverse, so reverse will definitely reverse the array, right? But the problem is, will reverse change the original array or not? I don't know. Let's have a look. So if we do bar, it's a good exercise. Bar fruits equals apple, orange, and banana, right? If we do fruits.reverse,
It's just going to reverse. So it's just going to be.
definitely change the order, right? Which makes sense. But the thing is, what's the value then of fruits? It's the same.
It's just reverse, change it and reverse back.
Yeah. So the thing is, reverse is like a splice. Reverse changes the array, right? Let me do that again. So look, if I do that, that will return the reverse array, which makes sense. But if I just want to display what's the current value, let's say console log of fruits, it will display banana, orange, and apple. So reverse is definitely changing the array, like a splice. It is mutating the array. For that particular case, we cannot use reverse here because we don't want to change the order of the elements. We don't want to start from here, right? We just want to keep Donald as the first element, Kim, Boris, Jameson. We just want to replace Arnold and Chris. So Tom should replace Chris and Jerry should replace Arnold. So how do we play around?
Like characters
Yep,
dot length
dot length
minus
Mi-
index
minus index. Right, is there
plus one.
+1, -1, divided by 1, multiply, what's the operator? So, right, that's a good example. That's a really good example. Can anyone please tell me what will this return? I'm going to, I mean, at the beginning, I think we all agree, right? So the first part, Donald, Kim, Boris Jameson. But then what?
I think it will that's just remove Chris,
It will just remove Chris.
and now it's just
Add another.
Change the for each.
Donald, only Donald.
Only Donald. Okay.
Okay.
Only Donald. Why only Donald?
Because if the character length is 5,
5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right?
Is it
no.
characters
We need to half on the half.
new characters length?
Sorry. Again, do we want to reverse it?
No. I want you to tell me what this is going to return. I don't mind if it's right or wrong. I want to see. I want you to understand what will this return.
I think it would just be Tom because
Just Tom.
it's,
So Tom replacing Chris.
yeah, because it's minus index. It's just taking once it puts that one character in there, it's got nothing else to sort of take over. So
I don't think so. I think this. I'm going to say what I think. I may be wrong, but
character remains, it's 6 minus index.
Yep.
5, so it will return characters.
but wait a minute. Index is not 5. It's never 5. Why 5?
Replace Chris with Jerry and then add another index.
Yeah, I think Justin got it. I think this is what it will happen, right? And I believe, and if he's wrong, I'm wrong as well, because I think that's what will happen. So look, let's set a breakpoint actually, right? We'll talk about breakpoints, but let's set a breakpoint. So the first time, index is 0, right? And what's character.length? 6, exactly. So we're pointing to characters of the index number 6. What's index number 6? No,
Nothing.
it's nothing, exactly. Chris is number 5. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So number 6 is a new element, right?
It's like the index minus 1.
Okay, no, wait. I don't want you to fix it. I want to understand, everyone understand how this works. So for now, and that's interesting because now I realize that I was wrong and then Justin is wrong as well. Because look, no, but that's why we are doing that, right? That's not trivial. So it's going to add a new element, Tom, right? But then on the next iteration, characters.length, it has changed, right? It's not 6 anymore. Now it's 7.
that's one.
Minus 0.
No, it adds one more, but then index is 1. So it's what?
Jerry. Garrett.
Jerry said
Exactly. No, instead of Chris, no. It should be Jerry instead of Tom. So it will add Tom, and then the next time, so it will add Tom. Exactly. And next time it will remove Tom and then put Jerry. Let's set the breakpoint. Let's play that. I mean, exactly, because index is 1, right? That's a very good exercise. I recommend you to practice afterward. Look, breakpoint, right? New character, Tom, okay. Index 0, right? Length 6. So then, next time, characters. Look, we got Tom appended. This is what Justin and I thought, right? We are appending Tom at the end. However, boom. Now the length has changed because we have mutated the array. So then, index 7, sorry, the length is 7, but index is 1. So this will point to position number 6. Exactly, Christian. So position number 6 is Tom. So this will pretty much replace Tom with Jerry. Here you go, right? So the reason why this is so good is because sometimes you will notice this kind of behavior, and this sometimes is complicated to debug. Hey, what the fuck? I get Jerry here. What's that? I'm never expecting that. That's why it's good to debug and see step by step what's going on, right? But then, okay, we know this is wrong. We know this is wrong. But how do we fix it? What Norbert was suggesting?
No, but it's
Right, -1.
it's the same thing.
Right, so let's run this example. So if we do -1, let's play again. Length is 6, 6 minus 1. So we're going to replace Chris. So Chris isn't going to be there anymore, right? That's correct, that's correct. But now what happened? So length is 6, index is 1, -1 is 1. So this will point to position number 4. So position number 4 is Arnold, which is again unexpected. We don't want to replace Arnold, right? Exactly. So this is not solving the problem. Right. I'm not going to tell you how to do it. I'm going to give you time tonight or tomorrow to think about how to solve this problem, because this is a really good exercise actually. So remember, I'll summarize it. Don't give the solution, please. So what we want to do is we want to add Tom and Jerry at the end of the array. Think about that, right? And wait, we're not done yet. I need still 5 minutes of your time because I want to talk about objects. This is going to be... Sorry?
No. I was going to say, no, you can't do that. I was going to ask for one more example before each.
No, let's leave it here, Damani, because otherwise we'll stay forever. If you have any question about that, let's catch up later. Okay? So yeah, so let me rephrase the question. I want you to investigate how to add Tom and Jerry at the end of the array, how to append Tom and Jerry, right? It's very simple, but I'll leave you and let you investigate that. Cool, so let's talk about objects. 5 minutes. Objects, fortunately, are much easier to manage. So if I got an object called character, then we got a few properties, first name, right? So if we got that, first thing, how do we add new properties to the character object? How do we add the age, for instance? Character square dot 0 dot age, yeah, equals whatever, right? So if we do that, here you go, we added a new property to the array. How do we edit an existing property? How do we edit the first name?
Just assign a new value.
Right? Still works, easy. But how do we delete a property? How do we delete the last name?
Delete in front of character, dot last.
Delete character,
And then what do you want to get rid of?
first name.
Dot first name.
He's right. So with objects, we can, do you remember we did that with arrays before and we got something very weird, but with objects it works really well. So with objects, if you pass the property you want to delete, look, it's gone, right? Yeah. Any question? Right? No? Cool. So yeah, that was it. Please think about that example. Whoever is, sorry, the array, how to append values, I will ask you, whoever got some inspiration, to write the solution on the board during the day. That's it. Sorry?
Only using for each.
However you want. Append values. Cheers.